Om Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are reading in the book Meditation and Spiritual Life by Swami Yatiswarananda. We are on chapter 16, Love of God, starting the section, the God word term. The ego asserts itself again and again. So, as Sri Ramakrishna says, make it the servant of the Lord. This is from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, published in 1974, page 103. Desires and passions refuse to be controlled. Give a Godward turn to them, maintaining their intensity. Instead of yearning for the company of men and women, yearn for union with the divine. Seeing him alone can satisfy the hunger of the soul. He alone can fill its void and give it permanent peace and joy. Instead of being angry with those standing in the way of your gross and subtle sense enjoyments, be angry with all the obstacles lying in the path of the divine. Learn to be angry with your lower desires, with your turbulent passions, with your very anger, and avoid them all at your great relentless enemies. Instead of wishing to possess another human doll or fleeting worldly wealth, covet the divine and his inexhaustible spiritual wealth, which can never be lost and is alone able to give us abiding peace. The Bhagavatam says, lust, anger, fear, affections, fellowship and friendship, when directed towards the divine being, lead to union with the divine. This is from the Bhagavatam 10.29.15. At the touch of the philosopher's stone, all the base metals of desire and passions, of greed and anger, lose their evil nature and are transmuted into pure devotion, bringing bliss and immortality to the soul. Even if a very wicked man worships me, the divine, with devotion to none else, he should be regarded as good, for he has rightly resolved. Soon does he become righteous and obtain eternal peace. Boldly canst thou proclaim that my devotee never comes to grief. This is from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, shlokas 30 and 31. I will recite them. Api chet suduracharo bhajate mamananya bhak sadhureva samantavyas samyak vyavasito hisah kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvachantin nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhaktah pranashyati. It may happen that a person is fully convinced of the evil effects of desires, but still is not able to rid himself completely of them. What is such a person to do? How can he rise above them? One way is to control them using willpower. Another is to cultivate the witness attitude towards them. Neither of these is easy, and in the beginning of one's spiritual life, well nigh impossible. What then is the way for a spiritual aspirant? He should connect them all, directly or indirectly, with the divine. Every desire, every sensual impulse, every passion must be given a Godward turn, consciously and knowingly, with an effort of the will. If his artistic sense and his desire to enjoy art are very strong, he should take up some holy form of art and make that a stepping stone for rising to the plane of the divine. Instead of listening to worldly music, let him listen to devotional music. Instead of singing for other people, sing for the sake of the divine, and so on. If he is very fond of the sweet fragrance and beauty of flowers and wishes to enjoy them, let him pluck flowers, offer them to the divine, and decorate with them the holy altar artistically. If he desires to love somebody or feels greatly attracted towards somebody, let him love the divine in that person and be thereby directly drawn towards the divine. If done consciously and unknowingly, all these act as a great controlling factor, as a great regulating agency, helping us in sublimating our desires, in giving them a higher turn, and in attaining greater purity. But even here, the ultimate goal to be attained by the aspirant is perfect control of mind and realization of God. Everything else serves only as a stepping stone to that. Following the graded path, we must be able to rise to the highest stage of pure spiritual love sooner or later. The Godward turn must be given to our relationships with all external objects. The divine is everywhere and in everything, but in order to be aware of it, we should learn to become more wide awake and conscious. We should be more reflective and act less on the impulses of our senses and instincts, be they good or bad. We are so careless and easygoing in all this that we follow the opposite course and bring no end of troubles to ourselves. We should fully recognize this idea of the unity of all souls in God in the right way. At present, we recognize it so half-heartedly, and properly speaking, without acquiring true dispassion and detachment, we cannot recognize it wholeheartedly and act up to it. If we are convinced that the one undivided principle exists in all, we cannot have any strong hatred or any strong animal love for a particular individual, but would only turn our eyes towards the principle at the back of him or her. This does not mean that we are to behave like fools and be without discrimination regarding the company we keep. No, we still should know the tiger to be a tiger, in spite of its being a manifestation of the one undivided principle. And we should not go and try to embrace it. We should know the divine principle to be present in all men and women, but this knowledge should not prevent us from discriminating and being careful so long as we are on the phenomenal plane. We should see the one principle at the back of the worldly person leading an impure and immoral life, but we should not go and have intimate talks with him. This is very, very important. And if we do not act up to this rule, our feet will slip one day and we shall surely come to grief. The aspirant can never be too careful in this. To the extent we recognize the one undivided principle in all our hatred, our so-called human love, our attachment will diminish and will lose their strength and influence. Wherever we find in an aspirant the desire to mix indiscriminately with worldly-minded people and with members of the opposite sex, we should know that there is something seriously wrong with him. His desires for worldly things and enjoyments have not yet lost their tenacity. No purification of mind has been attained, and spiritual progress and realization are altogether out of the question for him. Ordinarily, our attachment clouds our whole understanding. We must be able to stress the spirit more than the form, more than the personalities and sense objects. But so long as our craving for sense enjoyment, our clinging to this little personality of ours, continues to cloud our understanding, we can never really think of the one undivided principle, and hence we go on committing the same old mistakes over and over again. So, dispassion should be cultivated as much as possible by all aspirants. Without it, nothing positive can be achieved. Dispassion has both its negative and positive aspects. We should try to disconnect ourselves from others as much as possible and then connect ourselves with the divine, so that later on all connections with others can be done only through the divine, never in a direct way. Human love connected with the divine can be gradually transmuted But if it is not so connected, it degenerates and ends in misery. All our relationships, if they are direct ones, are born with the body and are associated with others through connection with the body alone. There is nothing lasting in them that can bring real peace and blessedness to any of us. Ordinarily, there is in us such an awful identification with our body and our senses and passions that we just brush aside God. Wherever there is skepticism with reference to the divine, there is some inordinate clinging to the ego and to the senses and their objects, because of which God is pushed out. So long as the individual is full of desires for sense enjoyment and possession, full of egotism and vanity, God has no place in his life. If the mind becomes perfectly free from desires and passions, one realizes the divine then and there. So, if we do not realize God, if we do not get even a glimpse of the truth, we need not ask why it is so. We should know that in the unconscious and subconscious parts of our mind, there are still strong desires in us, and we should first rid ourselves of those obstructions. So long as we allow them to remain, the question of God realization does not even arise. We should break the sway of impulses over us. The very moment the impulses rise in us, we should try to expand our consciousness, for then these impulses at once disappear, just as the waves disappear in the ocean. The man who knows how to expand his consciousness, how to attain to a higher form of consciousness, is not affected by such impulses that arise in his mind. One of the most effective means to rise above one's impulses is to come in touch with the divine consciousness, with that infinite presence which is always in us, and then connect all our thoughts to it alone. Next section. Merge all false ishtams into the true Ishta Devata. How much time we waste in being social, how much time we spend in thinking about others. It is just like meditation, so intense, but calling up false images and false feelings. That is not the way to progress in spiritual life. We must rise above the little dolls and puppets to him who pulls their strings, who makes them dance their chaotic dance. When we dispassionately look into ourselves, we see what funny things are happening inside us. Instead of busying ourselves with others, if only we devoted all that time to our Ishta Devata or Ishtam, what wonderful progress we could make. What is the marionette without him who holds the string and moves it? Where is the importance of the marionette? So, why all this attraction and aversion? Why all these likes and dislikes? Instead of centering all our emotions on our Ishtam. The Ishtam is always there within you. He never leaves you in the lurch, never disappoints you, never brings you misery and frustration. But you must know how to make him your very own, how to be in his company, how to consecrate yourselves to him alone. Unfortunately, it sometimes happens that we have not got enough love for our Ishta Devata. We mostly think of human beings and want to be enslaved by human puppets. If we make a holy personality our Ishtam, then we are saved from thinking of these hundreds and hundreds of false human Ishtams tying us to the phenomenal world and preventing our spiritual progress. Without rising above them all, we will never know what true love and freedom are. First of all, our attitude towards ourselves is wrong. Then naturally our attitude towards all others becomes wrong. Be on your guard. Analyze your thoughts mercilessly. Do not allow puppets to forge invisible fetters and bind you to them. If we watch our thoughts during the day, we find hundreds of worldly ishtams instead of your chosen deity occupying our thought life and our emotional life. We must cling to our real ishtam and dissolve all the false ishtams into the true Ishta Devata. There is no other solution, however painful this may be for the beginner. Always have the undercurrent of your mind connected with your Ishtam. Try to replace all other forms that attract or repel you by the divine form. Then your life will be happy and free from all attachment and will be really fruitful. It will know no frustration. Sometimes when you think of some people, you shudder. Sometimes you feel hatred. Sometimes you feel strong sexual attraction, the so-called love. If you consciously and intensely connect all these feelings at once with your ishtam, you save energy and avoid all these disturbances. Ganapati, please mute yourself. If you consciously and intensely connect all these feelings at once with your ishtam, you save energy and avoid all these disturbances. When the thoughts of other persons come, replace them by the thought of your ishtam. Always replace their forms by the luminous form of your Ishtadevata. Thus, you minimize the waste of your energy, and not merely that this practice has a great spiritual value. Because we have got still too much body consciousness, we still think in terms of bodies. When you find the thought of some person arising in you, which is useless or even dangerous, either attractive or repellent, but not contributing to your spiritual development, replace it at once by the thought of your Ishtadevata. Think this thought intensely and do japa. The divine should occupy our whole attention. As Swami Vivekananda says in his book Inspired Talks, our daily necessary thinking can all be done through the divine. This is included in the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, volume 7, page 9. The human mind is creative and is bound to create something or other. If you do not consciously direct the creativeness along the proper channel leading to higher forms of creation, it will be creative on the lower plane. The best way to control the harmful activity and creativeness of the ordinary person should be to give his energy a higher turn. There is physical creation, mental creation, spiritual creation. Why not go in for higher and the highest forms? We want to be dynamic on the physical plane. Why not be dynamic on the spiritual plane as well? In one of his poems, Ram Prasad, the great 18th century poet saint of Bengal, sings, "O mind, I tell you this, worship Kali in any fashion you please, repeating day and night the mantra given by a guru. Consider lying down as prostration and sleeping as meditation on the mother. While eating, think you're offering libations to her. Whatever you hear by your ears, all that is the mantra of the mother." Kali embodies the 50 letters of the Sanskrit alphabet, assuming names letter-wise. Ram Prasad is happy to proclaim that the mother pervades all beings. As you go about the city, think that you are going around the mother. The idea behind this beautiful song is to connect every activity with the divine consciously. This actually reminds us of the Shiva Manasa Puja composed by Adi Shankaracharya. We will stop here and chant the closing prayer. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.